Carolyn, what did you hope that the museum got out of this project? And then Rose, what did you hope your students got out of this project?
Well, for me, it was about improving our tours. Um, we do a tremendous number of them for school groups. And each of us as docents, unlike some museums, we don't have a script. And so each of us takes it from our own perspective and works with the students. And I've only been a docent for about a year. And what I was finding was that I wasn't doing anything really different with the students, but I was getting different reactions from students. And so I got very curious. So when Rose called, and I want your audience to know that when Rose called, we didn't know what we were going to be doing. None of us knew. She asked the first critical question, which is there something we can do together? And so we really developed this whole theme on the fly. The other thing, which I think was really remarkable, because I will still remember the day Rose said to me, "This is the first project I've ever done that I did not know what the outcome was going to be going into it. We didn't know how this was all going to work. Nobody had done it before. We were novice. And so I had hoped that there's something to be learned here about teaching students, teaching young people, because it's been a long time since my sons were this age. I don't know much about this generation. And for me, the biggest takeaway, I think, was what I learned about today's young people and how much insight they have into how they are. Sometimes they get cast in a very, very bad role of, they're selfish, they're greedy, they're self-centered to the hilt. And that is not, I mean, there's reasons why they appear that way sometimes. And they were very open to talking about it and very insightful and very self-aware.
So Carolyn, you mentioned that some of their reactions were surprising to you, that you gave this tour to adults and they had different reactions. So what were some of those reactions of students that you found surprising?
The one that stands out is the young man. He was in high school. We did the whole tour. And at the very end, he came over to me and he said, "I know why all this happened." I said, "Oh, good. Why?" He said, "Because old people are stupid." And so he was using his own biases. His own biases were influencing how he was looking at the museum, that we weren't giving enough context for him to go, there's something else that failed here. And they're perfectly capable of understanding that. But how we present it is often, here's what happened. And we need to take it that step further beyond here's what happened and get into some of the detail, get into some of the context and the reasons why, because sometimes the biases will kick in and the obvious answers come flying out. The other big thing was about suggestions that they were making, which were really good, about how to, we kept hearing a theme that you need to make this tour more interactive. You need to be more engaging. And I finally said because I was doing weekly office hours with these students in small groups, and I said finally to a couple of the groups, I keep hearing this theme of you need to be more engaging, you need to be more interactive. Why do I keep hearing that? And they were very clear. They actually talked about how overloaded they are, how inundated they are with sensory overload. So one of them said, it's YouTube, it's social media, it's everything else. We're just bombarded with stimulation. If it's not about me, I tune it out. And so I took that and went, if it's not about you, so we have to make what they're hearing relevant to how they're living their lives today.
How'd you do that?
Well, I'll let Rose talk about
All right.
ideas that we had.
So yeah, Rose, so can you tell us what you hope the students got out of this project, and how did the students make the tours at the Japanese American Museum in San Jose come alive?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing that I think project-based learning kind of unlocks for students is this authentic audience, right? That students are so much more motivated to actually learn and engage and dive deeply into things when there's something other than a test or a worksheet or a grade at the end of it. And so Carolyn mentioned the office hours that she so graciously did for my amazing little 12-year-olds, where every week on Thursdays, we spent an hour for each class with Carolyn and other docents in the museum to at first do education together, to tour the museum, for her to share her story, for other docents to share their stories. But eventually it became this sort of workshop with Carolyn and each of the small groups who was building a tour together, where they could share their ideas and she could give feedback and they could figure out how they could most authentically meet the needs of the museum. And as an aside, I think that was truly the most impactful part of the project for students and for me, of like watching students, especially students who may be more disruptive in class or may have a harder time focusing or things like that, who were locked in